Do your kind words ever come back to you? In a far-off place, nestled between towering peaks, there was a mountain valley where every sound returned to the person who made it. It was a magical place, a valley of echoes. Birds would sing their morning songs, and the valley would sing back to them, note for note. A child would laugh with delight, and their joy would bounce softly across the rocks, filling the air with happiness. People from the nearby villages loved to visit. Nay, they would stand on the high cliffs, shout their names into the vast emptiness, and listen as the valley called them back, their own voices returning louder and clearer than before. It was a game, a simple pleasure that connected them to the mountains. The valley held no judgment. It simply listened and returned whatever it was given, a perfect mirror of sound. One day, a young boy arrived at the valley. He wasn't there to play games or hear his name. His heart was heavy, filled with a simmering anger that made his small fists clench and his shoulders slump. His backpack hung low, as if weighed down by his sadness, and his eyes were wet with unshed tears. He climbed to the very edge of a cliff, the wind whipping at his hair, and with all the frustration inside him, he screamed into the open air, "I hate everything." The words flew out from him, sharp and bitter, traveling across the gorge. And then, just as quickly, they returned, hitting him like a heavy, booming echo. "I hate everything, everything, everything." The sound struck him in a way he didn't expect. The echo of his own anger felt like a stone thrown back at his own chest, knocking the wind out of him. He grabbed his shirt, his breath coming in shaky gasps. He couldn't understand why hearing his own words felt so painful. Stung and confused, he gathered his breath and shouted again, this time with a desperate loneliness in his voice. "Nobody cares about me." The valley, ever faithful, caught his words and sent them back. The lonely cry returned, softer but just as piercing. "Cares about me, about me." As he listened, his face softened. The anger began to melt away, replaced by a deep confusion mixed with a profound sadness. The valley wasn't arguing with him, was just showing him what he had put out into the world. An old woman, sitting quietly on a nearby rock with her walking stick, had been listening. She was a familiar sight in the valley, often found watching the birds as they danced on the wind. She had heard the boy's angry shouts and the valley's faithful replies. Seeing his confusion, she spoke to him in a calm, gentle voice. "This valley doesn't choose what to send back," she said, her eyes kind. "It only returns what you give it. It is an honest place." The boy turned, surprised. He hadn't noticed her there. He felt a small pang of shame, realizing someone had witnessed his outburst. He looked at her, then back at the vast, silent valley, and her words began to sink in. A new thought started to form in his mind. He looked at the old woman, a flicker of hope in his eyes. "What happens if I shout something different?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. He stepped forward carefully, closer to the edge, as if approaching a wild animal. The woman smiled, a warm, knowing smile that crinkled the corners of her eyes. "There is only one way to find out," she encouraged him. The boy took a deep, steadying breath, filling his lungs not with anger this time, but with a fragile determination. He leaned forward and shouted, his voice clear and strong, "I am trying my best." He waited, his heart pounding. And then the valley answered, its voice now encouraging and supportive, "Trying my best, my best." A wave of relief washed over him. His tense shoulders relaxed, and for the first time that day, a small smile touched his lips. He felt a shift inside him. The heavy stone in his chest felt a little lighter. Eager to test this new magic, he tried again. He shouted with all his might, "I will not give up." The echo came back like a promise, a powerful affirmation that seemed to wrap around him. Not give up. Not give up. As he listened, the sunlight seemed to grow stronger, breaking through the clouds and bathing the valley in a golden glow. A flock of birds took flight, soaring high above him. Then he did something harder, something that required more courage than shouting. He turned his body slightly, aiming his voice toward the small village nestled in the distance below. He took another deep breath and shouted, "I care about you." The sound rolled gently down the mountainside, a soft and hopeful message making its way toward the distant homes. Days later, the memory of the valley began to fade. The boy returned home from school, tired and sad after a difficult day. The world outside the valley hadn't changed. It could still be a hard place. As he walked through the door, expecting the usual quiet, he heard a familiar voice say, "We care about you. We're glad you're here." It was his guardian, greeting him with a kindness he hadn't expected. There was warm food waiting on the table. Their words, so simple and direct, felt strangely like the echo from the valley, as if his shout of kindness had traveled all this way and come back to him in human form. A real, warm smile spread across his face as he remembered the lesson of the mountain. From that day on, he carried the valley inside him. Whenever he felt the urge to shout something angry or hurtful into the world, he would first pause and ask himself, "Do I want to hear this again?" If the answer was no, he changed the words. He started helping friends who were struggling. He remembered to thank his teachers, and sometimes he would even speak gently to his own reflection in the mirror. He had learned the valley's secret, that life itself is a valley of echoes, and kindness is the one sound that always finds its way back home. In the final scene, we see him back on the mountain, no longer angry or sad, shouting one last thing into the wind, "Thank you," and laughing as the echo of his own gratitude joyfully returned. With stories. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more.